One of Door's biggest secret mysteries has just been solved, and it's only taken 3 years to finally do it. You see, dear viewers, 3 years ago was approximately when Doors released its Hotel Plus update. An update that introduced the greenhouse to the hotel, a final stretch of super difficult rooms to test everything you have learned so far. The two most notable entities in the greenhouse, as I'm sure you are aware, are Snare and Rush, a dynamic duo who work together to stun and attack the player at the same time. The thing is though, ever since this duo's introduction in the greenhouse, there has been a pretty big looming mystery regarding them. A secret which has been hidden from the public for all those years. However, recently, that was finally uncovered, and it not only makes known the truth behind Rush and Snare's relationship in the greenhouse, but also a terrifying reveal that could change the way we look at one of the game's strongest entities forever. Today, I'm going over this secret, as well as its dark implications. We have got a lot to discuss today, so with all of that being said, let's begin. Alright, so after being in-game for 3 years at this point, I'm sure you are all familiar with how Rush and Snare work in the greenhouse. Essentially, Snare is a completely stationary entity that hides on the greenhouse floor, and they extrude spikes that impale anyone who steps onto it. These spikes will stun the player for a couple seconds, making them completely vulnerable to Rush when they unexpectedly pass through the greenhouse as well. Gameplay-wise, Rush and Snare work together as a deadly combination to ensure that players are completely helpless to defend against Rush due to being stunned by Snare, meaning players have to be extra careful whilst traversing the greenhouse. Now, that's how it works in the gameplay. However, that same sentiment also carries over to the game's story. The developers have confirmed that canonically, both Rush and Snare willingly partake in this interaction to work together to kill the player. Now, on its own this seems fine, entities work together all the time in the game. The thing is though, it doesn't make sense for both Rush and Snare to work together according to their lore. You see, the reason for that being the case is because by definition, Snare attacks other entities. Essentially, Snare is part of the World Lotus, a large omnipresent plant creature found in the outdoors as well as in the main floors. We know this is the case because of a couple reasons. For one, the developers outright said that each individual snare trap is connected through an underground series of vines, which does fit the description of the World Lotus and its vine system. And two, Snare's spikes can be seen on the World Lotus vines, and Bramble, who is a creation of the World Lotus, can use Snare's spikes as a weapon against you. Snare is 100% definitely part of the World Lotus, and it makes it incredibly odd for them to willingly work with Rush, given the World Lotus's hostile tendencies towards all forms of life, not just against players. You see, Grampy confirms in his dialogue that the World Lotus has the ability to control any plant or animal life that it comes across, and this can be seen all throughout the outdoors. A stalk, as a whole, is just an inanimate piece of wood that the World Lotus brings to life by using its vines as functional limbs. And its vines can also be seen trying to infest a living monument inside of a particularly rare side room in the outdoors. The World Lotus has been established to try to spread its influence through any means necessary, including overtaking and controlling other entities, as shown with the monument example I mentioned earlier. This is why I said it's very odd for Snare and Rush to work together in the greenhouse. Snare is a part of the World Lotus, and the World Lotus has been established to be hostile towards other entities, so why is it even working with Rush if it's against Rush? If anything, the World Lotus would try to control Rush with its vines after the two interact, but that doesn't seem to be the case. This is that pretty big secret mystery mentioned earlier. All throughout the greenhouse, it's established that Snare and Rush willingly work together to kill you. However, all throughout the outdoors, it's established that Snare and Rush can't work together because the World Lotus has hostile tendencies against other entities. So how can both features coexist and still make sense lore-wise? For a while, there really wasn't a definitive answer. That was until very recently. You see, over the course of the past while, I've been asking the developers questions regarding the symbiotic relationship between Snare and Rush, and they've slowly been drip-feeding me clues until I eventually managed to pinpoint an answer to that conundrum I mentioned earlier. I have uncovered the secret that explains the mystery behind Rush and the World Lotus's relationship. However, before I reveal it to you guys, I do need to give you a little bit of background. I know, you just want to hear the answer, but this secret answer isn't as clear-cut as you may believe. So let's get on to that background information that I mentioned I'd tell you. For this, I want to ask you guys a question. Why do you think Rush kills the player? Entities like Dupe kill you because they want to eat you, they are hunting. However, when Rush kills you, your body just goes limp, it isn't eaten. That question is actually a trick question, as in reality, Rush doesn't kill you for any real reason. This is because the developers confirmed that the way you die from Rush is simply by their insanely fast velocity, which instantly kills you when the entity passes by. Rush has absolutely no concern for you after you are dead, and that essentially means Rush is a blind killing machine whose only purpose is to kill you and leave the body. They just want to end your life, that's it. I believe that the World Lotus recognizes this, and instead of targeting Rush, uses the entity to achieve its own goal. You see, although Rush's only motive for killing you is to ensure that you are dead and nothing else, the World Lotus wants to kill you so it can use your body as a vessel to control. Since Rush just instantly kills players and ignores the body, it means the World Lotus is free to take and use that body, whilst not having to put in any effort to kill the player because Rush has already done all the dirty work. What's more, Rush also benefits from this, as their job of killing you is made 10 times easier when you are stunned by snares. This is the secret which Doors has been hiding for 3 years. It's that the World Lotus is intelligent enough to recognize that not controlling Rush would be more useful to it than controlling Rush, because that way it wouldn't have to expel energy trying to kill players. It could just wait for Rush to do that, then use the player's dead body as a vessel afterwards, as Rush doesn't care about the body. Up until this point, the World Lotus has been shown to be an absolutely ravenous, powerful creature. However, now with this reveal, the entity has also been shown to possess incredible intelligence as well. Now, don't take this as a sign that Rush is completely safe from the World Lotus, as although the entities have essentially agreed to work together, the developers confirmed that the World Lotus may eventually attack Rush if given the opportunity. Still, the fact that the World Lotus has seemingly been able to control its hostility in order to preserve another entity is quite shocking, and it just highlights how powerful this one character is, which is kinda scary if you think about it. The secret, which Doors has been hiding for 3 years, is that Snare, also known as the World Lotus, is intelligent enough to recognize that its ability to consume all life in order to expand its influence sometimes isn't the most useful, especially if what it's going to consume is more versatile whilst not infested with vines, as seen in this example with Rush in the greenhouse. Now, like the developer said, it's still definitely possible for the World Lotus to just attempt to control Rush given the chance. However, given their strong relationship in the greenhouse, it's unlikely that will ever happen. I also see it as unlikely that the World Lotus would ever touch Rush because the entity is so fast. Anyways, we still have a lot more to learn about entities and their relationships to one another, but this was probably one of the coolest reveals in the entire game, as it gives us a whole new light to the World Lotus's attempts at controlling other entities. So, let me know in the comments what you think of all this, and thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.